Clementine Mosimane is a South African actress, best known for her starring role as Thandi Mazwai in the SABC drama series Soul City from 1994 to 2003. She's also starred as Mama Rose Tladi, a pillar of the community and mother to all, in the Mnet soap opera The Wild from 2011 to 2013. She's been a regular on our TV screen since the 90s, but she's got over 30 years experience and shows no signs of slowing down. She joins us now to reflect on her career and to speak about the work of her new foundation. Let's now speak to May Clementine. Very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. What an incredible, milestone. You have been on our screens since some of us were barely talking, and you're still going strong. You still we're seeing you in movies and telenovelas and dramas. What an amazing journey. Let's talk about how you've remained relevant throughout these years.
Yeah, thank you, Mpo, for having me this morning. Good morning to the listeners. Hey, Mpo, you know, there's this great man that is called God. I know that we all decide what we want to do in life, but at the end of the day, he is the one that really opens doors, that really gives us opportunities. And at times we find ourselves in places and we ask ourselves, how did we get here? But it is the grace of God. It is also respecting the work that I do, loving the work that I do, respecting my fellow actors, respecting the producers, the directors, the script writers, and just loving the work and respecting whatever comes your way.
Let's talk about some of your latest works. I mean, the SABC3 telenova, The Estate, and some of the other projects that you're involved in at the moment. Let's talk about some of those projects and what it feels like to be able to still work, especially at a time like this where a lot of actresses and artists in the industry are already battling.
Being on the estate, at the moment I'm doing the estate, I'm busy with Black Tax. I just finished doing How to Ruin Christmas Season 2, and I must just say, it is by the grace of God. Nobody knows where the world is going. Nobody knows what the future looks like because we are all in confusion, but the grace of God is still there to put us where we have to be at the right time. I don't know how I got here. I know that everybody was home, but through the pandemic, God has been going before me. He's been ordering my steps, and I just found myself doing the estate after finishing doing How to Ruin Christmas Season 1, and then I was on the estate. I'm back on the I'm back on Black Tax Season 2. It's just the grace of God. It's not that I am who I am, or maybe because of the experience that I have. Maybe, yes, the experience does add, but the grace of God really opens doors and it really guides us.
The experience does definitely add, and of course, being a spiritually grounded person also can really move mountains. What sort of mindset does it take to remain in that space and be able to shut out the noise and focus on what you do best?
You know, in life we always hear in the Bible they talk about faith, and they say faith comes by hearing and hearing the word of God, and you speak it with your mouth, and it says you can remove mountains. And when I pray, I ask God, I say, God, there's a mountain standing before me, and I command this mountain to move, let it fall. And that is where I am, because it is really, as I say, by the grace of God. And also loving everything that you do, remaining positive, shutting down everything and saying, yeah, I can see that the COVID-19 happening in the world, but I myself am saying, I am challenging everything by the grace of God. Guide me through, and He does guide us.
Absolutely. Let's talk about some of your work from last year, the award-winning film Poppy Nongena, and the role that you played there in the lead. And I think it's important to take a look at that film and reflect on some of the key messages, especially at a time such as this. I mean, special votes are being cast today, and we go into elections on Monday. And what we've been covering really in the build-up to the local government elections, we've seen the impact of service delivery issues in communities across the country, water shortages and electricity, and the struggles of ordinary South Africans. Really, you know, looking at your role and what you played in that film, looking up at the sort of atmosphere and the climate of apartheid, and having to hear of issues of racism even today in South Africa in the build-up to the elections, what are some of the key messages that you think can be drawn and taken from that film and the role that you played within it?
But the role that I played in Poppy Nongena was a black domestic woman, and she believed in what she believed, in who she was. She believed that things would be bettered. She believed that she is part of South Africa, and being part of South Africa, she would stand her ground. Today, we are still looking back at Poppy Nongena, and part of our lives are still part of Poppy Nongena. I mean, struggling for water in this age, struggling for toilets, struggling for work. People, I mean, Poppy Nongena had to struggle being a South African, struggling to get a work permit in her bona fide country. She belonged in South Africa, but for her to go and work in Sandton, she needed a work permit. How crazy was that? How sad was that? Mm-hmm. I mean, today you have people flocking into our country, and having flocked into the country, you ask yourself, did government take time to look at the infrastructure of water, sanitation, and electricity? Why are we where we are if those things were took into consideration? Why?
Absolutely. There's really some crucial questions, and unfortunately not very many answers when it comes to some of the questions around the climate that we find ourselves in South Africa. And looking back at the time that you grew up in and the ambition you had as a young woman to make it big in the entertainment industry in a political climate which also was not enabling, growing up in Soweto during the uprising, let's talk about your childhood and, you know, the sort of attitude you had to remain fixed on to get to where you are today.
I would say thank you to my mother. My mother was a journalist, and she was very feisty, and I took that from her. My mother always said, you must stand your ground, believe in what you believe, do not be shaken by anything. And when I grew up, yes, I was still young when 1976 happened. I was still in primary, but then the people like Botsisi Mashinini, Boden Mutsisi, those were the people that really encouraged us to say, you have to take the ox by his horns. And that's who I am today. And I am surprised today with our youth doesn't even stand up to say anything. They don't stand up to fight for the right things. If we have blackouts because of ESCOM, they toy in the township. They don't go to the relevant people. Why is that? Why is that? We fight on social media. What difference does it bring? But in 1976, I saw my brothers going to the street with dustbin lids and stones in their hands and going to fight the regime. And I'm not saying it has to be the same. We can still have peaceful marches, going to the right sources, telling them what we want. But the other thing is, when we flip the coin, do they really listen? Who are we voting for? Who is really going to listen? Look at the corruption that's going on in government. Look at our education system in the country today. Look at how many people have lost jobs today. Even before COVID-19 happened, how many people had lost jobs? Where are we as a country, as a democratic country? Where were we going to? Where were they leading us to? Today it's even worse. Our graduates are not even working. If they do work, they're working in places where they were not supposed to be. They have studied certain things, degrees, but they're not doing what they have studied for. It is really ironic.
Absolutely. Some really relevant points that you bring to the forefront. Before we say goodbye, I want to perhaps you to share some insight and perhaps some advice to young people who are aspirational, who want to get into acting, who want to get into the entertainment industry, and some words of advice and encouragement for those who may be knocking on doors that are not opening, but still believe in the dream of being a giant someday and a veteran such as yourself.
My advice would be, do not give up. Continue to knock on those doors until those doors open. Do not lose hope, because also timing is very important. God knows where you will be at a certain time. Do not give up hope. Don't just say, we will do drugs. I am so angry about drug lords that are just having their freedom in our country, and the police department is not doing anything. The government is not doing anything. Our children are just going deeper and deeper into drugs. But I'm saying to those kids that are still having visions about their future, hold on, ask questions, speak to us, ask us what direction to take. Maybe some of us are gentle enough and honest enough to guide you through and hold you by the hand and say, director, I've got somebody who's good. Producer, I've got somebody that I know has got talent. And it's not everyone that can be an actor. Remember, we've also got skills for making shoes, making sheets, making whatever. Do not give up. The only thing we have to do, make an introspection, and let us be truthful to ourselves as a nation. Let us be truthful to ourselves as a society. Do not just vote for people who are just doing mouth service and not delivering. We have been here for so long and nothing has been delivered. After 27 years, we are still fighting the same battle. Housing, education, work, poverty. We are still there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Let's leave it there for now. Thank you for your time speaking and in conversation there with veteran actress Clementine Mosimane, giving